برکو، رئیس و سخنگوی پارلمان انگلستان 2009 تا 2019. در سال 1978 کسانی به طور حرفه‌ای در اطلاعات مرکزی آمریکا با تحلیل غلط از اوضاع فکر کردند که ایران دوران شاه جزیره ثبات است. اما تغییر قاطع در عرض چند ماه اتفاق افتاد.
خامنه و رئیسی به هیچ عنوان نمیتوانند از کارنامه خودشان دفاع کنند. به همین دلیل آنها به این موضع ضعیف و نفرت انگیز افتاده‌اند که بگویند اگر نمیتوانیم چیزهای خوبی درباره خودمان بگوییم، اما آلترناتیوی هم وجود ندارد که هرج و مرج بدون بال نداشته باشد.
این استدلال به چیزی منجر می شود که اسمش تز مماشات است. تز مماشات می گوید که آنها آدمهای خوبی نیستند، ولی باید از آنها دلجویی کنیم. باید آنها را به رسمیت بشناسیم. باید با آنها سازش کنیم. باید تا حدودی آنها را بپذیریم. اما هیچ کدام از اینها حتی یک لحظه هم درست نیست.
البته یک آلترناتیو وجود دارد. آلترناتیوی هست با آمادگی بیش از 40 ساله که به خوبی سازماندهی شده، با تشکیلاتی مناسب، برخوردار از منابع کافی، از نظر مفهومی منسجم است و رهبری آن با توانمندی خستگی ناپذیر، با شکست ناپذیری و ظرفیتی پایان ناپذیر بر عهده خانم رجوی است.
چقدر این واقعیت خوشایند است که در برابر این رژیم وحشی، شرور، غیر انسانی و زنستیز جنبشی قرار دارد به رهبری زنی که الگویی برای جهان است و شایان حمایت می باشد.
با همه حاضران در این سالن امروز اطمینان کامل دارم که شما خانم رجوی همان کسی هستید که از طرح لازم برای یک جامعه متمدن در قالب برنامه 10 ماده‌ای برخوردارید که می‌تواند امید واقعی را برای آینده‌ای با یک زندگی بهتر، شایسته، شکوفا و سعادتمند برای مردم ایران فراهم کند.
کانون‌های شورشی این مبارزان آزادی شجاعانه حمایت خود را از خانم رجوی ابراز می‌کنند که این مبارزه را این چنین قهرمانانه برای آزادی در ایران رهبری می‌کند. از خودگذشتگی و تعهد تزلزل ناپذیر او به آرمان آزادی، به راستی او را به فانوس امید برای همه کسانی تبدیل کرده که مشتاق یک ایران دموکراتیک هستند.
Madam Rajvi, distinguished parliamentary colleagues, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen here assembled in common cause in pursuit of the freedom too long denied the people of Iran, let me tell you that I regard it as an enormous privilege to be invited to be amongst your number. An eloquent expression has already been given to the key verities, the inescapable necessities, the obvious messages that we have repeatedly to ensure are percolated throughout the world if there is to be full awareness, full cognizance, full recognition of what is happening in Iran and of what needs to happen if change is to be achieved. And I want, if I may, ladies and gentlemen, one and all, to make 3 straightforward points. First, as was eloquently articulated by former Prime Minister Stephen Harper earlier, change is within reach. It might seem difficult, it might seem challenging, it might seem uncertain, but it is vital to reiterate that essential verity that change is within reach, and how wise and perspicacious Stephen Harper was to underline that the fact of brutality, the fact of tyranny, the fact of egregious human rights is not synonymous with the inevitability of their continuation. Just as the speed of modern communications is a striking phenomenon to behold, so too is the speed with which an apparently dominant regime built on sand can, must, and sooner or later will collapse under the impact of public pressure. And of course, he sagely recalled that in 1978, those charged professionally at the CIA with responsibility for knowing what was going on the ground, no doubt innocently but foolishly misread the tea leaves and thought that the Shah's Iran was an island of stability and that the country was not anywhere near to the prospect of decisive change. Decisive change occurred within a matter of months. So too, I remind you, ladies and gentlemen, it happened in the 1980s and the 1990s in Eastern and Central Europe. So too, it happened not so long ago in Libya. And so too it can, must, should, and will happen in Iran to boot. But that leads me to that second point, which I must say, ladies and gentlemen, I regard as a counsel of despair and a shocking display of political cynicism by the murderous, thuggish, bestial regime in Iran. The notion of TINA standing, of course, for there is no alternative, or no alternative that won't immediately breed or mutate into chaos. Why do I say what shocking cynicism? Well, Khomeini and Rئیسی, and by the way, neither is fit to wipe the boots of anybody here present today, cannot begin to conceptualize, still less to articulate, a defense of their own record, their economic record, which is disastrous, their human rights abuse, which is egregious, their disregard for basic principles of good government, which is relentless and ongoing, and therefore they are left with the pathetic, feeble, despicable fallback position of saying, we can't really say much good about ourselves, but there is no alternative but for chaos to ensue. And of course, it's all about, ladies and gentlemen, is it not? Because there's a rationale for this, however despicable, the battle of wills. It's about the battle of wills, ladies and gentlemen, and I say the battle of wills because if they can persuade people who are not part of their regime to be numbed by the seeming inevitability of it all and to fall victim to the monstrous lie that nothing can be done about it, well, they are then 2/3, 3/4, 9/10 of the way to ensuring their own self-serving continuation in the appalling discharge of their responsibilities of office. And of course, that argument segues neatly into what I'll call, if I may so dignify it, which I probably shouldn't, the appeasement thesis. the appeasement thesis. Well, they're not very nice, but we've got to appease them. We've got to acknowledge them. We've got to accommodate them. We've got to some extent, for better or for worse, to accept them. None of those things is true. Not for a moment. And we've had some inspiring and sagacious words today. I hope, ladies and gentlemen, I will be permitted as a Brit to remind you of what the late and great Sir Winston Churchill had to say about appeasement in the 1930s in respect of a government then led in the 30s, but very badly, by his own party. This is what Churchill had to say before, thankfully, the country had the benefit of his services in time. There we see my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, on the front bench, pursuing his policy of appeasement, resolved only to be irresolute, adamant for drift, solid for fluidity, all-powerful to be impotent. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a council of despair then, and it's a council of despair now, and it's a council of despair that we should unhesitatingly reject. Of course, change is possible if those who are the victims of the present barbarism will that change. Whatever our politics here, and I see people from my own country who've held distinguished office on both sides of the political divide, none of us is likely to say that the resolution of political problems is easy or quick. Indeed, some problems are intractable. They're not simple. They're not without complication or ups and downs. But what is simple is the choice between a government chosen by the people and a government imposed upon the people. And on that central principle of whether you have a free political system or not, you cannot frankly impale yourself on a spiky fence, or not without very considerable risk to your own person and to a great many others besides. There is, of course, an alternative. There is an alternative of over 40 years' preparation that is well organised, that is soundly structured, that is adequately resourced, that is conceptually coherent, and is led with indefatigability, with indestructibility, and with inexhaustibility by Madame Rajvi. And what a piquancy there is, Madame Rajvi, about the fact that up against this brutal, vicious, inhuman and misogynistic regime, there stands a movement led by a woman who is an example to the world and deserves its support. I mentioned Winston Churchill a moment ago. Please excuse my bluntness, ladies and gentlemen, in saying that in pursuit of change, in the endeavour to free the people of Iran as they wish to free themselves of the awful incubus and albatross of their present government, we must all resolve to support them at every turn, as our American friends from both sides of the aisle so inspiringly did a few moments ago, and as my colleagues in the House of Commons, whom I see in front of me, on both sides of the divide, continue to do. And we must go on doing so, again, echoing Churchill, by resolving that we will keep buggering on. We will not concede. We will not abandon you. We will not fall short. We will speak up and speak out as you do and as you fight for your birthright. Too many people in Iran have suffered too much for too long with too little done about it. That must change, and I, Madam Rajavi, I think in common with everybody in this hall today, have absolute confidence that you are the person with that blueprint for a civilized society in the form of the 10-point plan who can offer real hope of a better, decent, prosperous, life-enhancing future for the people of Iran. Thank you very much indeed. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there are truly inspiring video clips from brave resistance units in Iran who are risking their lives to fight for freedom and democracy. In these clips, you could see the power of the human spirit in action as these freedom fighters boldly demonstrate their support for Madame Rajavi, who is leading, as I have said, the struggle so heroically for freedom in Iran. Her selflessness and her unwavering commitment to the cause of freedom have veritably made her a beacon of hope for all those who long for a democratic Iran. So I suggest that we should all watch these incredible video clips and be inspired, one and all, by the courage and the determination of these brave individuals. Thank you very much indeed.